Hi everyone. I hope that your Decembers are going well as we kind of move into the holiday season for some of us who choose to celebrate um, the various holidays that abound in this season, but really just feeling a sense of connectedness to the earth and the seasons and our loved ones as well. So I've had a lot of people kind of asking for just perhaps some assistance or clarity in reading for themselves as opposed to reading for others. So this video is just going to kind of offer some things I found over the years that have helped answers to be, not answers, readings to be clearer and of the greatest assistance for myself on my journey. And like in ways that I've seen over the years that really haven't worked. And so therefore there are reasons why I make certain choices when it comes to reading for myself. So most of us, as we grow in our path working with cards, especially if we're doing more than just like collecting, if we're someone who's finding that reading is actually reading with the cards or something that's really calling to us, it's fulfilling, it's inspiring, we find that reading for others is actually so much easier than reading for ourselves. Even though when most of us come to tarot, we begin by reading for ourselves. A lot of that is really learning and growing and discovering self-led, self-taught type of practice with the cards. And then once we start reading for others, we see that it's so much easier to read for someone else when you don't have any bias attached to a situation, or you're not hoping something happens a certain way, or you're not looking at yourself in a pessimistic light, or being, again, overly optimistic in regards to a situation in our lives. So in these situations, I've found a few things. And so first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about reading ethic. If you are someone who, doesn't read timelines or doesn't do more of the divination aspect of card work, then this piece of information or, wisdom from my experience may not apply for you. But if you are someone who does, when reading, bring in the aspect of psychic ability or seer work, intuition to determine either timelines or yes or no answers, those type of things, then if you are reading for yourself and looking to access that information, I have found that working with tarot for those type of questions when I'm reading for myself ends up being my personal best bet. So, and when I talk about ethics too, which is a completely whole different video, really, because ethics can shift over the years. There was a long time that I wouldn't do yes or no questions even for clients, and I wouldn't look at timelines, etc. And then as my years of reading went along, I'm over 10 years reading now professionally, that started to shift a little bit. And when appropriate now, I do feel comfortable answering those types of questions, whether that's for me or for another individual. And so depending on how you feel about that personally for yourself, I have found that tarot works best for very clear, concise answers to those type of questions, to the more divination or divinatory aspect of a card reading, especially when I'm reading for myself. And so you may find that, like, let's say you're trying to decide if you're going to buy a house and you want to do some card work for yourself on that. And you want to get into the more nuanced shadow work aspects of, is it the right time, in regards to this question. But you also want to know, is this going to work out? Like, let's say you're looking at a specific house. Is this one? Is this the house? Is this the right one? Should I put in an offer? Tarot can be very concise and help us to stay on point and on task with getting the answers that we are looking for from our cards. So what I found is if I'm approaching my cards, specifically tarot in this situation, because I would be using tarot for this, and if I'm approaching my cards and looking for an answer to that type of question, which is pretty short and sweet, then I don't want a big, flowery, excessive spread. Like, I wouldn't pull a full Celtic cross for that. That's just confusing you. That's giving you so many different options for an answer that really only requires, in my opinion, and for myself personally, a card or two for clarity to answer. So for those type of specific questions, when I am doing my own personal reading for myself, I will only draw 1 or 2 tarot cards and allow myself a clarification card of 1 oracle card, or 1 oracle card pull from a deck. This allows me to get the answer that I need, get any clarity I need without allowing my mind to take over the reading and send me in 15 different directions and confuse the hell out of me and have me leave the reading feeling more confused than I started the reading in the first place. So when it comes to very specific questions that you are wanting to ask, especially if you're very emotionally attached to something, which let's pause here and say also, if you are that emotionally attached to something, it may be time to invest in having another reader pull for you. My understanding over the years is that all of us who read for others know, you know when you're too close to something and you need somebody else to pull for you. And so you may just be too close. Like if, let's say I was really attached to purchasing a home, and I may just be a little bit too close to that situation to get the clarity that I need from the cards. In that case, I would reach out to a trusted reader, not necessarily a friend, but a trusted reader, someone who's unbiased in the situation and who can pull for me and give me clarity, and help me to see maybe things I couldn't see because I'm so attached to the situation. But if it's a situation where I felt like I could pull for myself, or I wanted to pull in addition to having a reading with someone else, I find that tarot and very upfront, straight to the point questions with a small amount of card pull really allows me to get the answers without becoming overly drawn out. So I'm the type of reader that when I read for others, I read very intuitively. I don't use set card spreads. But when I read for myself, because I tend to read a storyline in the cards, I will use card spreads for those situations, or I keep the card pull to a very finite amount and I hold myself to that agreement so that I'm not going off and, discovering why World War II started when really what I'm trying to ask is why I keep coming up against an issue and trying to purchase a home, just to use that example. So it's kind of like holding yourself accountable when it comes to those type of questions and drawing for yourself. I've found to be the most helpful over the years. And being really honest with what's coming up for cards too. So where I read very intuitively for clients, when I read for myself, I'm also more aware or more cognizant of the traditional card meanings as well. Because, let's say I'm looking at, maybe like a possible partner or someone who could be, I'm trying to use like broad kind of subjects that we all might approach the cards for, but like, let's say I'm looking at a possible new relationship, one moment, and I'm pulling for information on that. And let's say I get the Justice card, and I really want the Justice card to mean this person brings a lot of balance into your life, and it's very much about the softness of the Libran energy and the ability to nurture that comes with Libra, right? Like, let's say I'm really attached to that, and that's what I want when I pull Justice. But when I'm reading for myself, I'm also very aware that the Justice card can mean that there could be situations that come up in which this person tends to not interact with other individuals fairly, that someone tends to not know themselves well enough to hold themselves accountable for their actions in situations that may come up in partnership with someone. So you can see how when you read for yourself, and you can sometimes have a desire to have rose-colored glasses on when you look at these very specific areas of your life. But when you come back to the traditional meaning as well, and you at the very least honor the traditional meaning in your journal work and associated with the pull you're doing, in association with the pull you're doing, that helps you to kind of like keep yourself from getting a little bit too romanticized in how you're reading, and be very honest with what's coming through for information. And from there, then be able to make informed decisions based on what's coming through in the cards. So this is why, for me, when it comes to these areas, I found that tarot is the best type of deck to work with, because it's very specific and there are set meanings that I can at the very least bring into the reading to offer myself a different perspective that I may need to see or that I may not be wanting to look at in regards to any given situation in my life. Now, if I'm doing shadow work or I'm trying to incorporate an aspect of light work into my personal path, or I want to look at the big picture of a situation, or I want to feel inspired in my life, or I want to understand why I feel stuck or lost or depressed or any of those type of things, that's when I really find that oracle decks shine for myself personally when I do this work. So, and combinations of tarot and oracle then really, really sing for me. So for those big picture things, oracle can give me a large kind of soul perspective of maybe, let's say that I'm dealing with anxiety or an inability to sleep at night. And I want to look at like, okay, so like, what's the lesson here? Or why do I keep coming up against this? Or what's perhaps happened in childhood that might be triggering something for me? Oracle decks and then oracle and tarot together can really shine light on those areas for you and give you a big picture view that can then allow you to journal, to meditate, to move in a positive, informed, empowered direction on your path. So those are the situations which I will really pull from oracle, and my spreads might get bigger and they might stay more intuitive insofar as there isn't a set spread meaning, set spread card meaning for each pull. Excuse me. I've been talking a lot this week. Or I'll use spreads like in the Isis Oracle, the Wing of Isis spread. That's always a really great one that I come back to when I'm trying to understand like a significant cycle in my life, or as I feel like I'm stepping on to a new path or a new aspect of my path. That spread will really give me in-depth spiritual information that assists me in staying open to the experience and understanding why the experience is happening. So the straight up tarot, sweetened to the point for the more like yes or no or specific questions, and not overly large spreads. And then for those big picture kind of soul work pieces, I find that then my spreads can get larger, be very intuitive, and I can work with oracle decks specifically with tarot more as an addition to, in a way that's really helpful and healing for me on my path. So I find those kind of ways of working with the cards in my personal work to be the most helpful for me. That's just kind of what I found over the years as far as what works. And I do like set spreads for, looking into spiritual or shadow reasons or shadow aspects of things that are, reasons why things are occurring in my life. The other thing that I really like to do for myself, and I can't recommend this enough, and if you're involved in a mentoring process with me, it's always a part of your homework, are daily draws. They really give you insight into kind of the mundane, earthly aspect of your past and how cards tie in with that. And for that, you can use tarot or tarot and oracle or just oracle. But by taking a few moments each day to draw a card, to sit with the energy of it, to journal about it, and then to see how you interact with that energy throughout your day, it really brings a depth of connection to your cards into your life, but it also allows for you to feel the connection of divine messages coming into your life on the daily as well. That it's not just something that happens when there's an emergency or you're afraid about something or you're excited about something or something bad happens or something really good happens, but instead it can be in each and every moment of the day that you're able to feel that connection to the divine. And the cards just happen to be a tool that allows us to feel that, a really beautiful tool. And so this is where artwork then can also really serve to inspire you creatively when you're drawing cards daily as well. And your journal work can become storytelling or art pieces. It can really flow in any way. And it can be really inspiring and profound if you allow that to be. So those are some of my tips and tricks for reading for yourself with the cards. Again, I do want to say, considering your ethics are important. And so as a reader, when it comes to yourself as well as for clients, And also being really honest with yourself about when it's time to get a reading from somebody else. You may just not be able to offer yourself um, an unbiased perspective when you're really attached to a situation in your life or a circumstance in your life. And a fresh perspective can help you to be a lot, to get the guidance that you're looking for and then make an informed choice for yourself on your path. So yeah, those are just some things I found helpful over the years in regards to reading for myself. But there's a time and a place for gigantic spreads, and then there's a time and a place for very small, finite number of cards that can give us clarity. And knowing when it's time to offer that for ourselves is really powerful. So I would encourage you to sit with that. Next time you have something come up and you're wanting to do a spread for yourself, how large does the spread need to be? What kind of information are you looking for? And then decide on spread size based on that. And that type of thing has really helped me over the years, kind of letting go of a need to read like anybody else, or to hold myself to set card meanings when it really doesn't feel authentic to do that. So, as I said at the beginning, I hope you're all having wonderful holiday seasons. I am sending you much love and many blessings, and I will see you guys in the next video.